Anyway, I'm delighted to be joined now by the CEO of the Electric Vehicle Association, James Court, to tell us more. James, this is great news for Somerset, great news for the United Kingdom. Tata's decided to make this big investment. It's getting quite a lot of government support, and that will help get the programme up and running and will ensure we can carry on making cars even if petrol cars are phased out.
It's a fantastic day, and I think we are in this moment now where we are facing competition from America, from China, for these exact same things, gigafactories, which are going to be the basis of a future car market. And I think it is a real sort of vote of confidence, not just in the UK, but also the political leadership we've shown in this agenda. You'll probably remember the cars, coal, cash, trees, COP. And this here, sort of the 2030, 2035 phase-out date for EVs was right at the centre of that. And that has made us sort of a global leader in this. And we're paying dividends for showing that leadership.
And it's interesting on the site they've chosen because they will be near the Hinkley Point nuclear power station, because one of the things they absolutely need is a secure source of electricity so that you can both make the batteries and then charge the batteries.
That too, and as well as the experience we've already got as a country, as a car builder and a car manufacturer. I mean, Nissan up in the northeast was one of the first mass-produced electric vehicles. We have experience in this, we have skills in this, and I think a lot of people's fears are that if we didn't get going on these gigafactories, we would lose our car industry. Post 2030, 35, at the moment, 50% of our cars that we export go to countries that have either got proposed legislation or legislation that are going to be phasing out petrol and diesel cars. If we don't grip the EV revolution, we won't have a car manufacturing base in this country. I think that'd be extraordinarily sad. And
it's really exciting that it's being done with such a big partner because Tata is really serious. It will be providing the bulk of investment itself. Yes, there's some government support, but it's not primarily taxpayer funded.
So I've been trying to do a back of sort of the paper sums on this and how the reported 500 million versus the giga-hours that they're going to be putting out. And it looks a very reasonable deal compared to some of the billions and trillions that certainly the US is spending in their Inflation Reduction Act. So it looks like it's a really good deal. And I think there is some fear that we would have to do this now every time we want to get a gigafactory in. I think this is now, once we can secure the base, we can show we can do it, build the supply chain up, build the skills up, we'll be a very attractive place in the UK.
I mean, I think that's absolutely right, and I think it's one of the exciting things about it, that Tata benefits from the first mover advantage and gets a bigger subsidy than anyone else would be likely to get, but the taxpayer's getting good value for the deal with Tata. And for somebody who's generally suspicious of governments picking winners and things like that, they generally tend not to get it right. This looks like as good a deal as you could possibly get.
I think you've got to base that picking winners against the overwhelming global movement on this. And I think if the government didn't do this, and I think it would be a crime if they had let this sector die and sort of go into declined sort of management. We needed gigafactories, and sometimes government needs to do this. There's a great story of how we got the Nissan Leaf originally, and it was Peter Mandelson, I think one of your predecessors as business secretary, and he heard the rumour that they weren't going to pick Sunderland as the branch, and he picked up the phone and he made it happen. Sometimes there are moments that you have to, as a minister, really grasp the nettle.
Well, Liz Truss certainly deserves some of the credit for this, because in her admittedly brief period in government, this was one of the things she was absolutely determined to make happen and ensure that negotiations with Tata were as well focused as possible, and that everything around it was ensured, because it's not just you put a factory here, you have to have the connections and the infrastructure, and being on the M4, M5 corridor means that you can transport the batteries very effectively once they're made.
Yeah, and I think it's talking a lot of, I think, last 13 years we've seen governments broadly agree on this, and we are beginning to see some of that. The sad thing, I think, is when we lost sort of the wind farm sort of industry, having been first mover on that. We have a tradition of losing our benefit and first mover status, and it would have been a crime if we'd have let the electric vehicle industry sort of pass us by. So I think this is a great first step. It puts us on a par where some of other European countries are, but we really need to grasp it, and we really need to start building more.
And it's very good news for the whole Jaguar Land Rover brand, because they will now have the batteries to supply their own car manufacturing in the West Midlands.
And it future-proofs their business model. And I think that it's no secret, that they are slightly behind other car companies when it comes to developing EVs. This now, I hope, puts sort of real rocket launchers under their cars, and we will be able to see JLR cars built in the UK for a long time to come.
Well, as a happy driver of a Jaguar, admittedly with a petrol engine, I think this is very exciting and good for the United Kingdom. But thank you very much, James.